I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn, and I call my neighbour Helena Dollimore on the Bayeux Tapestry exhibition. Helena Dollimore.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. No other work of art is as entwined with our island's story as the Bayeux Tapestry, which quite literally wove my constituency of Hastings, Rye and the villages into our national history. The tapestry's return home after spending nearly 1,000 years across the Channel is a triumph for Britain, and it's testament to this Labour government's success in strengthening our relations with our closest European neighbours. This loan is a symbol of our shared history with our friends in France, and I pay tribute to all those involved in arranging it, but in particular to Antoine Venet, the director of the British Tapestry Museum, who sadly passed away earlier this month. I also want to thank everyone involved on both sides of the Channel, including the British Museum and the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. William the Conqueror's landing on our Sussex shore is a story familiar to every schoolchild in Britain. The date 1066 is etched into our national consciousness, and the Battle of Hastings was a defining moment in British history that continues to shape who we are today. While historians may disagree on exactly where the battle itself took place, and indeed sometimes members of this House, a millennium later, the clash between the Saxons and the Normans still resonates across our land. In fact, Hastings and the surrounding area, and I see other members representing 1066 country here in the chamber, is known as 1066 country. So inseparable is our identity from the events immortalised in the Bayeux Tapestry. Many streets in Hastings bear names referencing Saxon, Norman, William or Harold, and even our local hospital is aptly named the Conquest Hospital. Yet while we have often found ourselves at the centre of historical events, we have not always felt the benefits. Across Hastings, Rye and the villages, over 60% of young people leave school without a level 4+ in English and Maths GCSE, the equivalent of a C. The Sutton Trust has said that we are in the bottom 10 places nationally for social mobility, and our life expectancy is below the national average. We may be a similar distance from London as Brighton, but our train takes twice as long. And our infrastructure has suffered from 14 years of neglect, and our roads are riddled with potholes. All of this is symbolic of how we have too often been forgotten by Westminster, by Whitehall and London cultural circles. The Bayeux Tapestry exhibition at the British Museum will be the exhibition of a generation, and I want children from 1066 country to see it and feel pride in knowing that the story it tells began in the place that they call home. When I go into our local schools, our young people are so proud to be from Hastings, but they must not be priced out of a ticket and a chance to celebrate the legacy of our town on the national stage. I'm urging the British Museum to guarantee places for school children from Hastings and the surrounding area, and to support the cost of travel so that access is not determined by how well off our local schools are. My challenge to the British Museum is to live up to their name, to truly be the Museum of Britain, and ensure young people from Hastings and 1066 country get to visit. I've had constructive discussions with the museum, as I know my colleagues have, and I stand ready to work with them and local schools to make this happen. This Labour government has rightly set the expectation that London museums must work harder to be genuinely national institutions by opening up opportunities for young people from every part of our country. What better way to do this and celebrate the return of the Bayeux Tapestry than by ensuring the people of Hastings and 1066 country are truly part of this national moment. That is why I've asked the British Museum to reserve at least 1,066 tickets for local residents. I would also like to thank the historian Dan Snow and David Dimbleby, who is a nearby resident, for supporting me in this campaign. They too know that local children being able to see this exhibition for themselves could inspire the next generation of historians. Our area helped make this piece of history. It must now fully share in its legacy. I will give way.
Madam Deputy Speaker, first of all, can I congratulate the Honourable Lady for Hastings and Rye. The only subject that I excelled at school was history, by the way. And I think the Honourable Lady has excelled by far, of course, but she always has a love of history as well, as I still maintain over all those years. Does the Honourable Lady not agree that to see this incredible piece of history, that is the Bayeux Tapestry exhibition, will be an absolute inspiration for children to understand the rich history of this nation, this wonderful nation, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland? I'm having flashbacks of my third year history when I think about this, by the way, Madam Deputy Speaker. But does the Honourable Lady not further agree that we must ensure that schools from around the nation, all of the nations, must be able to bring children, perhaps that funding pots to help with costs for schools should be considered? Well done. Congratulations.
Helena Dollimore.
I thank the Honourable Member for that important intervention, and he is absolutely right that school children need to be able to access this exhibition. They shouldn't be put off by the price of a ticket to the exhibition or a train ticket there, or even a flight in his case. And it's really important because, you know, I speak as somebody who went to local state schools and was lucky enough to go on and study history at university. And who knows who we could be inspiring by allowing school children to see the exhibition. As I was saying, we want school children to be able to see the exhibition, but we also want to encourage visitors to the exhibition in North London to take a further step back in time and visit the place where it all happened, 1066 Country. I'm urging many of our transport providers to make sure that we can make it easier for tourists to visit 1066 Country during this important moment. I'm urging South Eastern Trains to look at how they can make it quicker for tourists to visit our area. And of course, this also extends to visitors from abroad, which is why I've been campaigning to bring back international trains to Ashford International, to encourage our European neighbours across the Channel to be able more easily to visit us in 1066 Country and in Hastings and Rye. Hopefully, this time, they will be armed with buckets and spades rather than bows and arrows, and they will certainly receive a much warmer welcome than they did in 1066. 1066 Country is not only rich in history, but also in landscape, in heritage and in culture. We might be tucked away in the south coast, but we pack a punch well above our weight in what our visitor and tourist experience is. From Hastings Museum to Hastings Castle, Hastings Contemporary Gallery, Rye Heritage Centre, Camber Sands, Rye Harbour Nature Reserve, Hastings Country Park, and many more, we have so much to offer people wanting to visit. With next year marking the 1000th anniversary of the birth of William the Conqueror, we are celebrating this Year of the Normans with special events across Hastings, Rye and the villages. I know I would like to see one of the many replicas of the Bayeux Tapestry to be put on display in Hastings. I can't think of any better place to be named the UK's town of culture, which Hastings is hoping to be named as next year. Much of our... I will.
Rodder.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to commend her for her speech tonight. She's spoken so eloquently about the importance of history and the role of the Normans in both Sussex history, or in local history, but also in our country. And it's been a very poignant speech, and thank her so much for mentioning the copy at Reading Museum, which was woven in Victorian times using similar stitches to the original copy, which was, in fact, the original tapestry was made in England and then exported to Normandy. Perhaps she wants to ask some of her residents to come to Reading Museum at some point and to look at the wider impact of the Norman conquest across the country. In fact, due to William the Conqueror's son, we had a wonderful abbey built in Reading, and it led to the growth of our town. And that story is echoed across many communities in this country.
Helena Dollimore.
I thank my honourable friend for that intervention, and indeed we have many replicas of the tapestry that I'm aware of. The one he talks of in Reading Museum, there is also one that I know Hastings Borough Council have got in storage, and I'm urging them to take it out of storage and put it on show in time for the big moment later this year. I'm also aware that my honourable friend, the member for Bexhill and Battle, will speak later about another one that's underway. But as I've said, much of our area relies on the tourist economy, which supports 1 in 5 jobs in our region. We have a wealth of small, fantastic independent pubs, restaurants and hotels who work exceptionally hard to give our visitors a warm welcome. And this has got to be a big moment for them that they feel the benefits of too. While there may be other beautiful places in the UK that we compete with, this is a one in the eye for them and our big chance to showcase everything Hastings, Rye and the Villages has to offer. Because the return of the Bayeux Tapestry will be a national moment that belongs to the whole country, but it must have a special place for the people of 1066 country, where this story began. Thank you.
Dr. Kieran Mullan.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I want to begin by congratulating the member for Hastings and Rye for securing this debate, and also for those that don't, our constituents perhaps who don't follow the etiquette. The adjournment debate is typically a debate for a single member, so it's really gracious of her to make some time for me to speak briefly in this debate on something that we've worked together on. I want to thank her for the work that she's done to date. When we talk about the Bayeux Tapestry, we're talking about history that is deeply interwoven in the culture and history of my constituency in Bexhill and Battle. William landed in Pevensey, which is in the west of the constituency, and people can visit the ruins of Pevensey Castle there, and we have a museum in Pevensey that exhibits the really important local history from that perspective. And almost pinpointing the middle of my constituency is Battle Abbey. And Battle Abbey is perhaps the biggest tourist attraction in my constituency and is visited by thousands of people every year, and actually it was built by William as penance for the bloodshed and violence that local people had experienced as part of the Battle of Hastings. As the member indicated, there is some dispute about whether the battle took place there. As the member for Bexhill Battle, I'm going to plant my mass firmly on the argument that it took place where Battle Abbey is built, and every year there is a reenactment of the battle, which is increasingly popular. Actually had one of its best ever years last year, and it's a major tourist attraction, and both the ruins of Pevensey Castle and Battle Abbey are important English heritage sites. And I want to thank them for meeting with me recently to talk about the opportunities that the Bayeux Tapestry presents and all the work they do all year round on those sites and other important historical sites in my constituency. The member has done an excellent job with the greater time she's allowed of going through in detail all the different things that we might want to gain from this exhibit visiting the UK. So I'll just re-emphasise a couple of really important points. And before I want to make those points, it's of course something that will benefit everywhere. There's lots of different places where there will be benefit, but really I do think it is in 1066 county that we should expect the greatest attention and effort put into ensuring a success. I think the first thing we have to do is ensure that the benefits of the visit are felt outside of London. As the member said, this is the British Museum, it's for Britain, and whilst of course it's important that London gets its share of the tourism spend that will come with this tapestry, it's vitally needed, that tourism spend in our own constituency. So I think we have to make sure that there's a clear programme from the British Museum and others to ensure that visits to the tapestry secure visits to our constituencies, and actually vice versa. There will be people that will be driven to the tapestry who would ordinarily perhaps have just visited 1066 county and its historical sites. I think that's really important. And second, the issue of our local school children. How often do local school children get to feel like their history is as important as this, as a major exhibit and a major historical event happening? So I think it's really important that local school children get to visit the tapestry and it's made affordable and accessible to them. Of course, there'll be opportunities for children across the country to get to visit, but let's make sure that that programme is really supportive of our local school children. And I'll just finish on mentioning a community project that shows that this isn't just about something that's happening in the future. The way in which the history is part of our culture locally is an ongoing thing. And so we have this fantastic community project led by Christina Green and Tim, who are replicating the elements of the tapestry that relate to the ship that William sailed in, the Dollimore. It's called the Dollimore Tapestry Project, and for some time now residents in my constituency have been able to visit Battle Library and take the careful time of stitching parts of this replica tapestry under the watchful eye of Christina, making sure we're using those techniques. They've done an amazing job in researching the walls, so the walls they use are the same or as close as we can get to the walls that were originally used in the tapestry. And even more incredible, I think, is she noticed, and I'm sure other historians will have noticed, the absence of the female voice in these historical documents, if you might say, like the tapestry. They're very male-centric. Actually, William's wife, the Queen, was thought to be a major player in this, helped commission the boat, and there's a whole additional bits to this tapestry, so we're adding new bits to the story that focus on her role, which I think is really great for the schoolgirls that also come and take part in the sewing of the tapestry. So it's already part of our history. And it's already a day-to-day thing that we make use of culturally and historically, locally. So let's make sure the visit of the Bayeux Tapestry helps weave some new stories, some new projects, some new ideas. And it's a great opportunity to do that. And I really want the government to work with the British Museum, who are cooperating. We're having more productive discussions, but I think the efforts of the Minister to keep it all on track, I'm sure will be greatly appreciated.
Minister,
Madam Deputy Speaker, thank you so much. I'm so pleased to respond to this debate this afternoon. I congratulate my honourable friend for Hastings and Rye, not only in securing this debate, but her lovely speech. And I did notice in there was a little bit of lobbying about becoming the town of culture as well, which I've subsequently noted, and I'm sure my officials in the box have done so as well, because it's really important that this will be the first time since it left the UK over 900 years ago that the Bayeux Tapestry has returned. It's a very, very important moment. But I was reflecting that perhaps the modern battles between the honourable member for Bexhill and Battle and my honourable friend for Hastings and Rye on where the battle actually took place, and perhaps there'll be a tapestry made of that particular battle in the years to come. Because the tapestry coming to the UK is more than a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, it's a once-in-a-millennium opportunity, and something we should celebrate and get the most out of, as members have said. And I wish to start by paying tribute, as my honourable friend did, to the director of the Bayeux Museum, Monsieur Antoine Verney, who sadly passed away just 2 weeks ago, and to extend our heartfelt sympathies to his family and to his colleagues. His contribution over the years to promoting knowledge of the tapestry and sharing this widely, including with colleagues in the British Museum, leaves a lasting legacy which we must honour and build upon when the tapestry arrives here this year. I also want to extend my gratitude on behalf of the UK Government to our friends on the French side, who are doing so much to enable the loan, including President Macron, of course, and the Minister for Culture, Rachida Dati. The role in supporting this loan has been crucial to making it happen. I'd also like to pay tribute to the hard work and commitment of the UK Government's envoy on the tapestry, Lord Ricketts of the Other Place, and of his French counterpart, Philippe Balival, and to thank all the people who are making this loan possible, including the French ambassador to the UK, the President of the Normandy region, the mayors of Bayeux, Rouen and Cannes, as well as senior figures in the Regional Cultural Authority and, of course, colleagues here at the British Museum. The Bayeux Tapestry will be on display at the British Museum from September this year through to July 2027. I thank the British Museum for working so hard to enable this exhibition and for their generosity in loaning the Sutton Hoo treasures, the Lewis chess pieces and more than 220 drawings by Renaissance masters for their collection to museums in Cannes and Rouen in Normandy for displays in 2027, to coincide, of course, with the celebration of the Year of the Normans, marking 1,000 years since the birth of William the Conqueror. I'm not sure if the member for Strangford remembers the birth of William the Conqueror, but I'm sure he's not far away. It's an enormous task to deliver such a historic exhibition, but to do so in such a short time frame is a particular challenge. Usually exhibitions at our major museums take 3 to 5 years to plan, but the British Museum is rising to the challenge of putting this on in little over 1 year, as well as developing a national programme of education and engagement to spread knowledge of the tapestry and the Norman conquest throughout the country. And I think what my honourable friend from Hastings Rye says about the deprivation and the educational attainment in our constituency, we should use this as a platform and a foundation of which to build, not only for those children, for children of the future, but those inspired historians that we may be able to get as part of this. The tapestry is, of course, unique. Care of the tapestry is underpinned by expertise on both sides of the channel. There's been concern expressed in some quarters, Madam Deputy Speaker, as to whether it will be able to travel safely. I'm pleased to say that the British Museum is working closely with its French counterparts and is bringing its world-leading expertise to bear in ensuring that the tapestry can travel here safely for this unprecedented loan and can be seen by as many people as possible, which is key. I understand, of course, that many areas of the country would claim close links with the Norman conquest, and so many members of this House would claim a special interest in this area, including where the Bayeux Tapestry may have been made, which seems likely to have been Canterbury. The north of England also has a historic connection to the Norman conquest, not necessarily exactly positive, due to the harrying of the north carried out by William the Conqueror, but I think we can all agree that the Battle of Hastings, as depicted on the tapestry, is of such critical importance to all of our history. I congratulate my honourable friend on her tenacious campaigning for her constituents, and particularly in the educational field, seeking to ensure that school children in her constituency and neighbouring ones are able to see the exhibition and to understand the significance that the area they live in has to the history of our country. I have been assured by the British Museum that schools in my honourable friend's area will also receive priority booking. reflecting the salience of the area and the events of 1066 and the huge local interest. And I understand that she, together with the British Museum, is working with South Eastern Railway to offer at least 1,066 tickets to schools in 1066 country to get to London at heavily reduced rates.
Helena Dollimore.
I thank the Minister for his commitment to helping the children of Hastings get to see this exhibition. Does he recognise that schools that are not as well off as other areas, they need that help to get children to the British Museum in North London, whether by coach or train? They simply don't have the spare funds available, and all that he can do in his discussions with the museum, with donors, with other supporters of access to the arts will be much appreciated.
Minister.
And my honourable friend raises the key principle of the Secretary of State at Culture Meetings and myself in terms of what we do in the department right across the country. Being in Edinburgh MP myself, I remember studying the Bayeux Tapestry in primary school some 40 years ago. I know you'll find that hard to believe, but some 40 years ago. And having children and school children really interested in this, we have to make sure they can get here to London, and we have to make sure the educational programme spreads out across the country, and we have to make sure those who want to see it can see it, because the legacy of this has to be for younger people as well as those who have an interest in it itself. I know all of this, though, would not have been achieved without her hard work on behalf of our constituents and their children. The exhibition will be free to all under-16s with a paying adult, wherever they are from. And more broadly, the museum is developing plans for family activities, including an open family festival, 3 to 5 days of activities across all school holidays for the duration of the exhibition, and a finale family festival as well as part of that. There will also be exclusive school mornings, which will provide free access to schools to see the tapestry during term time. And on top of this, the museum is planning on rolling out a variety of exciting digital content which children across the whole country will be able to enjoy, whether they be in their history lessons at school or at home with their friends and family. The British Museum is developing an ambitious national programme of education and engagement to raise awareness of the importance of the tapestry and of the Norman conquest to the history of the whole of the country and to its heritage, culture and language. Indeed, Norman French is still used in some parliamentary procedures, such as the granting of royal assent, as we know, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Museum's national programme will involve over 100 different sites who have developed content that demonstrates the far-reaching consequences of the Norman conquest. This includes working with English Heritage, the British Library, the National Archives and Norfolk Museum Service. The aim is to ensure that as many people as possible will be able to take part in and engage with the loan of the tapestry to the British Museum wherever they are in the country. And as part of that, the museum itself is working with a range of stakeholders in the Hastings and Battle areas to ensure that the local community is engaged with the exhibition. And I will take away the issues that my honourable friend raises about not making sure that people can just get to London, but actually tourists and others can go up to 1066 country to see what there is there to improve that tourist economy and also the experience of the tapestry being here. More generally, the year 2027 marks 1,000 years since the birth of William the Conqueror. So the region of Normandy is marking this with a wide-ranging series of activities, including on an international level that will involve Scandinavia, where the Normans originally came from, and areas that their influence reached, such as Ireland, Sicily and the south of Italy, as well, of course, as our own country. This is a unique opportunity to deepen and engage the public in the UK-France relationship, alongside the wider work on the Year of the Normans and the strength of our cultural partnerships, such as the partnerships between the BFI and the French Centre for National de Cinema and the national heritage bodies of both countries. Furthermore, in 2027, the Tour de France and the Tour de France Femmes will both have their grand departs in the UK, one being from Edinburgh, of course. This is another demonstration of the close links that exist between the UK and France. And I know my honourable friend mentioned potholes in their own constituency, and I hope ours are filled in by the time the cyclists come to Edinburgh as well. That's a challenge for the local authority there in Scotland. And indeed, it's an increasingly polarised and divided world. The links that culture and sport can create are more important than ever, especially with our close neighbours with whom we share so much history. But I don't provide any luck whatsoever to the French rugby union team, who will be coming to Murrayfield a week on Saturday for the Six Nations, and that those cultural links and sporting links are really important to us all. Of course, the Battle of Hastings is not the only historic event represented in the tapestry. The tapestry starts by showing Harold swearing a solemn oath in Normandy in 1064. After having been shipwrecked there, the oath is widely assumed to be support of William's claim to the throne of England. The tapestry then shows King Edward the Confessor's funeral at Westminster Abbey, after which Harold claims the throne. It then depicts ships being built in Normandy as William prepares an invasion after Harold had been crowned King of England, before moving on to events in England before the battle itself, after William and his army landed at Pevensey Bay in East Sussex and William ordered a castle to be built there. The Battle of Hastings itself is then depicted, with William at one point raising his helmet to show his troops he was still alive, followed by, of course, the famous scene which seems to show King Harold being killed with an arrow in his eye. So the tapestry gives an account of how William the Conqueror came to power in England, and as it was likely to have been made on the orders of William's half-brother Bishop Odo, it's obviously an account written, or rather embroidered, by the victors. In conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, as I mentioned, this is a national event, and so there will be many other members of this House with a keen interest in the tapestry coming here and the legacy of the Normans as it's felt throughout the United Kingdom. That said, the Hastings and Battle area and 1066 country more generally have a fantastic tourist offer, which is never going to be more relevant than this year and next. So I would encourage the British Museum to strengthen their work with the 1066 Country Tourism Board. And I should note that the British Museum will be hosting a briefing in Parliament on Wednesday the 22nd of April to update all parliamentarians on the loan, the exhibition and the Museum's National Programme of Education and Engagement, and I encourage all interested colleagues to attend that and to engage with it, and also to Lord Ricketts in the other place. I very much look forward to seeing the tapestry in the British Museum, and I hope as many as possible of my honourable friends' constituents are able to see it as well, and particularly school children, so that they can learn about the history of this country through this exceptional work and be inspired for the future. I would urge visitors to the exhibition to follow up their visit of the tapestry by going to see where it all happened in 1066 country, so they can not only see the tapestry, but they can see the very places themselves. And I commend my honourable friend for bringing this debate to the Chamber.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Order, order.